My name is Arlene Herson. The name of the show is Getting to Know You, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Tonight, we're going to get to know what The Godfather, Happy Hooker, and Midnight Cowboy have in common. We're going to meet a dynamic young movie producer who has made the successful trip from Long Branch to the glitter and glamour of Hollywood. Among the superstars he has worked with are Elizabeth Taylor, Robert De Niro, Marlon Brando, John Travolta, Faye Dunaway, and Dustin Hoffman. The story of how he started in the business and rose to success in one of the most glamorous careers in the world is something I think you'll find fascinating. As to what The Godfather, Happy Hooker, and Midnight Cowboy have in common, they are among the very exciting motion pictures that my guest has worked on. He is Fred Caruso, and let's get to know him. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm delighted that you can be here.
I'm glad to be here, Arlene. Thank you.
And actually, you do have a fascinating job. You are involved in the most glamorous business in the world, motion pictures. But you didn't start that way. Actually, you started as a music teacher, teaching in a high school in Tinton Falls, living in Long Branch. How did you wind up in motion pictures?
Well, I was very lucky. I did teach at Monmouth Regional High School in New Shrewsbury and Tinton Falls, and at that point I decided to do something else, and I changed my vocation, and I decided to get into the film business. I was not too successful in the very beginning, and it all started when I wrote, and my wife typed, over 100 letters to different motion picture producers and directors and studios around the country, and I received not one answer until I got a telephone call from Otto Preminger, and I met with Mr. Preminger in his office, and he offered me a job. Actually, it wasn't a job, he just offered me the right to come and watch a movie and be an observer on a set, and I was a glorified coffee boy when I started.
Wait a minute, okay, but that happened awfully quickly. You wrote 100 letters. Nobody answered you at all.
No one at all.
What did you say in those letters?
I said exposure is a secret to success, and my name is Fred Caruso, and I'm now exposing myself to you, and I'm introducing myself to you, and I would like to get into the film business. Actually, I wrote letters to motion picture studios, television studios, recording studios. I knew I wanted to get into some form of the entertainment business, and the only call that I got back was from Otto Preminger.
Well, everybody said Otto Preminger had a good eye.
Yeah.
All right. What was it like? Did he call? You said he called you. Did you go and meet with him personally?
Yes, I got a phone call from his secretary, and I went into New York to meet with him. And he was doing a film at that time called Harry Sundown in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with Faye Dunaway and Jane Fonda and Michael Caine. And he invited me to come down and watch. And I was still working, I was married, I had 3 children, and I went home and talked it over with my wife, and I packed my bags and I left.
Okay, you left school. You went down to Louisiana to work, as you mentioned, as a glorified coffee boy, not getting paid a lot of money, I assume.
I got paid nothing.
You didn't get paid anything. Okay, well, were you nervous? You left a wife, 3 children, back home in Long Branch?
I was nervous and frightened.
Yeah.
Scared and not knowing what was going to happen. My responsibilities, being a father and with my wife. And when I got there, I again got lucky. They needed a song to be written for the film, and I met with the composer, and it was a song that they needed for the grade children to sing in school. And that night I wrote the song, I wrote the lyrics, I wrote the music, and presented it to the composer and to Otto Preminger, and they loved the song, and took the song, used it in the film, paid me $200 for the song, and gave me a permanent job on the film, and I then got $50 a week.
Wow.
So my first job was $50.
All that money to send home to the wife and
Yeah.
children now. Okay, you did make it. I mean, and it's important, I think, to know that you started because you were willing to do anything. And because of your willingness to do anything, you now have done so much. You've worked on, as I mentioned, The Godfather. You've worked on The Network. You've worked on Midnight Cowboy,
Yeah.
Blowout, just to name a few, actually.
I've done so far that I've worked on and been associated with over 40 films
Okay.
in the last 10, 15 years, I guess.
All right, and many of them, and most of them, major films. What is your job primarily on most of these films?
I'm what's called the producer or the executive producer or associate producer or executive in charge of production. The title really doesn't matter. It depends on what the film is. And what I basically do is once a film has been financed, or oftentimes I find the financing, there's a director involved or a studio involved or another producer involved, and I'm given the script to break down the script, budget the script, cast the film with the director's approval, make deals with the agents, find the locations, get the crew, get the equipment, and take everyone to the first day of shooting and hold their hand through the next 10 weeks or 12 weeks or 40 weeks of filming to make sure that the film comes in on budget, on schedule, and that the director has everything that he wants within reason.
Wow, okay. And you also write the checks.
I also sign the checks.
You mentioned in the 40-odd movies that you've been involved in, about how much money have you spent on?
Maybe I've signed $200 million worth of checks.
200 million, okay, but it didn't come out of your bank.
It didn't come out of my bank,
Right.
and they weren't made out to me.
All right, okay. Well, what I want to do is talk about some of the experiences you've had. Take us behind the scene, but we're going to take a break right now, and then let's go behind the scenes and hear about some of the people you've worked with. We're speaking with Fred Caruso, and we'll be right back after these messages. We're back with my guest, Fred Caruso. Okay, now let's go behind the scenes, because you've worked on so many major motion pictures with major stars. The Godfather was one of them. What was Marlon Brando like to work with?
A terrific man,
Yeah.
a practical jokester.
Uh-huh.
He is, as other actors that I've worked with, a perfectionist in what he would like to do and what he does. You know, his speech pattern, there's the story about the cotton that he had in his mouth, and it was real cotton that he had in his mouth to try to create that speech of the Italian mobster that he was. He loves to play practical jokes on people, and he enjoys doing it, and he loves to play cards and drink beer.
Oh, okay, a regular guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you told me something that he and James Caan would do on the set. Can you kind of share that with us also?
Yes, Jimmy Caan loved to streak and moon people, the famous mooning, and Marlon Brando did too, so there was always a competition on the set as to who was going to streak first and who was going to moon first and who would moon the longest in front of the crew and in front of, we would be in the middle of a street in Long Island, and all of a sudden Jimmy Caan would moon the audience, and Marlon Brando would do the same thing.
That's funny. Gee, I wish I had been on that set to see Marlon Brando and James Caan mooning. All right, back to a more serious point with The Godfather. Was the horse's head in that scene a real horse's head?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We had tried making a head of plaster of Paris, covering with horse hair and horse fur. We had tried, we had gone to a taxidermy studio to get one that had already been stuffed, and nothing looked real except a real horse's head. And so we had a deal with a veterinarian college and a veterinarian doctor in Long Island, and the first horse that had come in that had to be destroyed, had to be put away for some disease, we got the head. So we had to plan our shooting schedule around a horse coming in, which we did, and they called us in and said there's a horse's head coming in. They brought it to the set in ice. We filmed it, put fake blood, and then brought it back to the college.
Okay, so you had to wait for a horse that was ready to die and
Yeah.
instantly
Well,
get his head well.
If you're doing a scene with a newborn baby, you make a deal with a hospital and a mother who's going to give birth to a child, and as soon as that child is born, you schedule your film around it, or you're scheduling around it, and you get a shot with a newborn
Yeah,
baby.
right.
So we did the same thing with the horse's head.
Uh-huh. Okay. Not quite. It was the opposite. One waiting for one to be born and waiting for one to die.
Right.
All right. Speaking about dying, there was a lot of blood in The Godfather and a lot of machine guns. Are those actually real machine guns?
The real machine guns that shoot blanks, and what happens is the special effects man holds the machine gun, and it's wired and triggered with blanks in it. And the actor has what we call squibs, little plastic bags with electric charges behind it inside their clothes, and there's small tear holes in the clothes. And what happens is the special effects man pulls the trigger on the machine gun, or the actor pulls the trigger on the machine gun, and that goes off. And then the special effects man hits an electric button which shoots off the squibs on the person's body, so it appears that he's being shot.
Yeah, okay, there was a lot of blood. I'm glad to know the guns are real, but the blood is not. Did you have any idea, working on Godfather, it certainly is one of the, it was released several years ago, but one of the biggest moneymaker of all times. Did you have any idea that you were working on a film that would be so successful?
No. The Godfather was one of the first $100 million grossing films that came out. And at that time, we had no idea, or the studio, or Francis Coppola, Marlon Brando, Paramount Pictures had no idea what the film was, the success that the film would have.
Right.
You just never know.
It certainly was successful. Another successful film you worked on, Dressed to Kill. Okay, there was controversy attached to that. Angie Dickinson appeared in a nude scene. Now, when the film came out, several people said that that was not really Angie Dickinson's body in the scene. Now, you're here to tell us the truth because you were one of the producers of that. Was it Angie Dickinson's body?
Well, I can show you a photograph of it if you like.
All right.
Yes, it was Angie Dickinson's body. Actually, what happened is we had a double standing in for her for makeup shots and makeup tests, and when in the shower scene when she got waterlogged for take 2 and take 5 and so on. But in fact, it was Angie Dickinson in the shower scene. There are 2 versions of the picture. There was the original X-rated version, which was never released, and then we went in and recut, or the director, Brian De Palma, went in and recut part of the film to give it an R rating. And so the audience never saw the real Angie Dickinson, or they never saw all of Angie Dickinson. But what you saw in the film was Angie Dickinson.
Yeah, okay, that's nice to know because
nice lady.
She's in her 40s. A nice lady too, good. Okay, with a terrific body, and if it's her, she should get credit for it. Okay, Blowout, another film, another superstar, working with John Travolta. There's been a lot of talk about John Travolta not being the easiest person in the world to work with. What was your experience with him?
It's not that he wasn't easy, or that he's difficult or easy, is that John Travolta, being a new superstar, having only had his success in his television film, or his television show, and then Saturday Night Fever, and the rest of the films that he had been in were not too successful, Urban Cowboy perhaps. And so he's a bit insecure in his new-found stardom, and because of that, he just doesn't trust anyone. He doesn't trust anyone because he doesn't know if a person's telling him the truth or not. He just doesn't have the experience as some of the other actors that I've worked with who've been in the business for 20 years or 30 years or 40 years. And so it's just his insecurity makes it difficult to work with.
Okay.
But he's a nice guy.
Yeah, he is a nice guy. Okay. You mentioned all the work that goes into his film. You told me some of the work that he did for Saturday Night Fever and his dancing. Can you share that story?
Sure. John Travolta is a klutz. I mean, he really can't dance, and he really can't walk down the street and chew gum at the same time. And what he did in Saturday Night Fever is he went into 6 months of pre-production lessons and training to dance, as Robert De Niro did in Raging Bull. He trained for 6 months to become a boxer in the film. And so John Travolta trained to become a dancer, and every dance step that he does is only for that one shot. After that, he forgets it, and he can't dance at all.
That's incredible.
But he looks great on film.
Yeah. Another illusion on the motion picture screen, because he really does look like an incredible dancer. What about the illusions we have about people like Elizabeth Taylor? You worked with Elizabeth Taylor. Again, share your experience with
She's a superstar. There are many superstars. You can talk about, use the word superstar, and she is one of them. She's been in Hollywood for 30 years, or 25, 30 years. A wonderful lady. When I worked with her, she was not as popular as she is today. Her popularity, as with most actors and entertainment people, fades and comes back again depending upon what their last hit was. I was filming with her at MGM Studios, and she had not been at the MGM Studios for more than 10 years. And when it was heard, when the news came out that she was coming to the set and coming to MGM, everyone came out to see Elizabeth Taylor. The guards, the makeup people, the gardeners, everyone wanted to come back and see Elizabeth Taylor. And she was a lovely, gracious lady. Just truly gracious.
Okay, she is. All right, well, that's a different feeling than we've had, and that's nice to know. We're going to take another break, and maybe you can share more of the behind the scenes with us. We're speaking with Fred Caruso, and we'll be right back again after these messages. We're back with my guest, Fred Caruso. some of the things that you're sharing with us, some of the myths, some of the things that we believed about people that really aren't true. It's nice to know Elizabeth Taylor was nice. You told me during the break that her husband wasn't so nice, although she's not married to him anymore, so I guess that Senator
She got rid of
Warner
him.
was, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good for her. All right. Speaking about myths, you know, it's nice to know that she was nice, but there are various rumors that go around, particularly in the motion picture field. One of them is drugs. That so many of the stars, the superstars in particular, not just in particular, but them certainly involved, need cocaine, need drugs, need something to get their act together, to get on the screen, to do what they do. Is that a fact? Is there a lot of drugs around?
Yes, there is, unfortunately. I can say that there is. There's been an expose in the television industry most recently of the drugs that the television stars are into, and it's also motion pictures. I mean, it's almost the entire entertainment industry. There are drugs in the entertainment industry. The reason I would think for it are two. One is the money, is that if you make a lot of money, you have to spend it. And you can only own so many boats and planes and suits and cars and houses. And so the next thing you do is you spend it on drugs, either for yourself or for your friends. Also, the actors or the performers who indulge in drugs, it is an escape for them to always be up and always be high and always be on and always be a performer even when they're not. And I think that that's the reason for it. Unfortunately, there is.
Okay, well, I can think of a lot of things to spend money on other than drugs. I mean,
Sure.
it's not, I mean, if they want to know how to spend their money, I've got a couple of suggestions for them. But is it true, I mean, with some of the major stars, I'm not going to ask you to name names, but the major stars that we see on the screen today, you have seen use drugs before going
Yes.
before the camera. You have.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you get to know about it, and you give them time in their dressing room, an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever they need to get into their part and to get high enough to come out to get in front of the camera.
Okay, so everybody kind of accepts this. This is just part of it. You know that it's going to be there.
That's correct.
Yeah. Sad.
Sad.
Yeah, unfortunate. Okay, another thing that I have heard recently, and I wonder whether it's true or not, but many of the most macho male stars actually prefer men to women. Is that a fact?
That's a fact. You may also call them bisexual, in that they may go out with women and go out with men. You could say that the film The Officer and a Gentleman could be about two guys, an officer and a gentleman. Yes, that is true.
Okay. And
Some of our television stars and our motion picture stars.
yeah, all right. You're not going to tell us who they are you?
No.
Yeah. Will you tell me later? All right. Is it difficult keeping something like that a secret? You know, if you've got a macho male star who's out there with the, you know, female audience falling all over themselves, is it difficult to keep that a secret, that he's really
Well, it's
interested
only
in
kept
men?
a secret in that in the industry we respect each other. And so whether it's dealing with drugs or dealing with whatever their lifestyle is, it's something that you don't talk about because you respect the other person's privacy. And whatever they do on a set is their business, and what they do after hours is their business, and no one talks about it.
Okay, but there's always the press coming out. Not this kind of press, of course. We're only looking for the good things, but there are press looking for these things in particular. How do you keep this a secret from them?
Well, you don't. And the old publicity saying is that bad press is good press. And so if somebody comes out and says that Paul Newman or Robert Redford or whomever it is not straight, and that's fine. It's just press.
Okay, we're not saying that that is the truth in their cases, of course, because they are. Okay, not to have anybody misconstrue that. Okay, your most recent film, which is not out yet, which I had the opportunity of spending a day, 2 days, as a matter of fact, on the set of Once Upon a Time in America. Very exciting. I thank you very much for arranging it for us, because it was really very special for me. But
It's a good show.
yeah.
Your show's a good show.
Oh, good. Okay. But Once Upon a Time in America is actually a film with a Jewish theme made by Italian people, many of who don't speak English at all. Is that true?
It's true. The director is Sergio Leone, who's an Italian famous film director who did all the spaghetti westerns, Once Upon a Time in the West, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, all the Clint Eastwood films. And he had a vision to do a film called Once Upon a Time in America, to trace again the underworld, the so-called underworld, and it has the Jewish theme to it. the Meyer-Lansky theme. And the film was shot in Italy. It's a foreign film with American actors, with Robert De Niro and Elizabeth McGovern. We filmed in Italy, we filmed in France, we filmed in Canada, we filmed in the United States, we filmed in St. Petersburg, Florida, Newport, Rhode Island, New York City, Montreal, Paris, Venice, and Rome.
Why so many places?
To try to recreate New York City of 1923 and 1933 and 1968.
Ah, so you went to Paris, Rome, Italy, Canada to recreate the United States in the 1920s.
Rather than build it, there's a train station in Paris that looks like Grand Central Station of the 20s. There are buildings in Montreal that look like New York City, Lower East Side of the 30s. St. Petersburg, Florida looks like Miami Beach of 1930. And there are some sets that we built in the studio, but the exterior sets we shot live, and to try to recreate it and try to find them, we went to all of these different places. Venice was used for Long Island. And Spring Lake, New Jersey was used for Long Island. We filmed here.
And today they look more like a Long Island than
Spring Lake.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, but some of the things you create, you told me a story about going to Chinatown, for instance, and to create a scene. Can you share with us what happened in Chinatown?
Yes, one of the actors in the film live in a tenement house in the Lower East Side, which we found, and the director wanted a specific look for an interior apartment, and it was a 5th floor walk-up cold water flat. There was no heat and just cold water flats. And we knocked on the door, and it was a Chinese family living there with 6 children, from newborn or 2-month-old infant to 7 or 8-year-old child. And none of us spoke Chinese, because we spoke Italian or English, and we brought in a Chinese interpreter to tell the family that we would pay them to move their entire family out and all of the furniture out for 1 day. And we made the deal, and the next day we arrived, and the trucks came, and the men came and took their furniture, put it into a truck, and brought in period furniture, and put the family up with neighbors and friends, and we filmed the entire scene there that day, and then moved them back in again.
Right.
And they were very happy because they got paid for it.
How much does a family like that get
What did we pay them?
Yeah,
we paid them $500.
Oh, terrific.
For 1 day.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure it was a very exciting day.
Well, when it was over in Chinese, through the interpreter, they wanted to know if we were coming back the next day for $500 a day. Right?
Sure, come use my house again. Okay, Robert De Niro is one of the stars of that film. Again, I hear he's a perfectionist. Is it tough to work with someone who's a perfectionist?
With a person like De Niro, yes. It's not, he's a nice person to work with. The difficult thing is that it's never right for him. He will do take 50 just to do it over again to make sure that it's right. And he does this every day, day in and day out, and it becomes very difficult and costly.
Yeah.
But he's usually right, because he's gotten 4 or 5 Academy Award nominations and Academy Awards, and his films are always great, so maybe he's right.
Okay, and you've gotten Academy Award plaques, which I never heard of before, but we're going to take a break right now, and I want to find out what Fred Caruso has gotten in the way of Academy Awards.
Okay.
We'll be right back after these messages. We're speaking with Fred Caruso, so don't go away. We're back with my very special guest, Fred Caruso. I say very special guest because you are a very special guest, because you were my very first guest. This is the second time that you've been back on the show, actually not counting our days on Once Upon a Time in America, and I hope you'll be back a lot more times, but it's extra special to me because my very first show ever was Fred Caruso.
Thank you. I'm glad that you
still
invited me
one of my
back.
favorite. Okay, and you've been recognized by other people too, because you received, as I mentioned, Academy Award plaques. Just briefly, can you tell us what that means?
Yes, when films are nominated and films receive awards, Academy Awards, or nominated for awards, the production department that I'm in control of also receives, they don't receive the Emmy, the actual, not the Emmy, but the Oscar, but you receive a small medallion plaque that says Fred Caruso, Godfather, or Network, or some of the films that I've been associated with that were nominated for Academy Awards.
Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight
also,
Cowboy,
actually, you received 4 of them.
Yeah.
Do you remember the 4th? You mentioned 3.
No, I thought about it. I just couldn't think of it.
Now that's something, to get Academy Awards and not remember what they were all for.
And I keep them in a drawer somewhere. I don't even know where they are.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about so many of your experiences. You worked with Dustin Hoffman, with Faye Dunaway, with William Holden, with Michael Caine, lots and lots of stars. But was it worth it, the trip from Long Branch to Hollywood? Is it really as glamorous, as terrific as we think it is?
Yes, it is. It's glamorous because first you have the opportunity of working with the motion picture stars and working in the entertainment business. It's exciting in that every day's job is different. Every moment in what I do is, I never do the same thing twice. You have an opportunity to travel, and through the course of the years, my family has had an opportunity to travel with me. It's a little bit more financially lucrative than being a school teacher. And it's a wonderful job, and I can tell all people who want to get into the film business to call me up and try to get in.
Now that's a very dangerous thing.
I'll get 1,000 calls.
Okay, you do. Okay,
Yeah.
but it's not so easy to get into the film business.
No, it isn't. It is difficult.
Yeah. Okay, but you make it seem easy, and I really appreciate your being on my show. I thank you for coming back, and I hope you'll be back a lot more times.
I will. Thank you very much.
I hope that you have enjoyed getting to know Fred Caruso. I know that I certainly have, and that you'll join us again next week. Meantime, good night. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.